From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with a special weather briefing regarding the accumulating snow that we're expecting across parts of central North Carolina tomorrow, basically afternoon and tomorrow night. So right now, the biggest change from when I sent these slides earlier is that we now have issued a winter weather advisory that's in effect for much of central North Carolina. And you'll notice the southern tier of counties there from Anson, Richmond, Scotland, Hoke, Cumberland, Sampson County are not included in the advisory. And just be advised that our advisory criteria is an inch of snow at least. So while you're not in the advisory for those 5 counties, 6 counties rather, that doesn't mean you're not going to see any snow. It just means the duration of the snow will be short enough that we think you're going to stay below an inch of snow. And I'll get into more of those details here in just a minute. Before I jump into those details, I want to share this real quick with folks because we've gotten over the last hour and a half several reports. In fact, the instrument at the RDU airport even reported it. But I've got some spotter reports here of basically this band right here on the radar, and this is live radar. So, but this band right here, we're getting some reports that there's some sleet pellets actually mixing in. While you might be wondering, well, gosh, the temperatures are in the mid 40s. How on earth is that possible? Certainly, the reason is because the dry air is coming in just above the surface. It's coming in very rapidly. If you look up at the sky, in fact, you'll see kind of the cloud base is pretty high up there. I mean, it's not, it's probably about 6,000-7,000 feet up, but there's a lot of dry air underneath those clouds. So if you look up, you look at the clouds, just think there's just an incredible layer of dry and drying air. And what's happening is as that reflectivity there that you see is precipitation is falling through that dry air, it's refreezing very quickly into these ice pellets, and so quickly that it's able to survive the fall through temperatures at the surface in the mid 40s. Rest assured that this is not going to create any problems the rest of this afternoon. You can see on radar, which I'm showing now on the screen, how splotchy and light it is. This is not going to be a problem for us today. So don't get too worried if you see a few sleet pellets mixing in. Again, and I'll circle it one more time, particularly with this band right here, there could be a few pellets of sleet mixing in with the otherwise light rain. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of talk about that for a second. It's just in case you see any sleet. Again, nothing to worry about here for the rest of this afternoon. All right, so the 3 main things we're concerned about: snow and its relation to hazardous travel, and maybe a little bit of a gusty wind late Thursday through Thursday night. But really, the big discussion point will be the snow, and the timing of that we'll address here, and obviously elevated concerns and impacts for those wintry weather concerns. I wanted to jump right to this slide here because this is obviously, timing is always the number one question I get. As we're leading into these storms, when's it going to start? When's it going to change over? And when's it going to end? And hopefully this slide can address many of those points. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., we are expecting light rain to be moving up into central North Carolina. We are expecting it to be rain everywhere. It should be warm enough for rain, but quickly changing over to snow along and north of I-85 first. By late morning. So by 10 a.m., we should see some of that precip changing from rain over to snow, again, particularly along and north of I-85. And just as a quick reminder for folks, here is the I-85 corridor, which we very frequently reference here in our briefings. So that's the I-85 corridor. And oftentimes that highway serves as a good reference for where there are different varieties of precipitation occurring. Okay, so then notice how that transition line shifts south throughout the day. So here is that changeover line right about there with a little bit of sleet mixing in at times further south by midday. So one thing you might be thinking to yourself is, well, it's a little bit sooner than what we've been, hearing up until this point, and that's true. The forecast has trended, number one, faster with the onset of snow and wintry mix, and number two, a little bit more in the way of snow than what we were predicting yesterday, and number three, the one thing you may not have saw in yesterday's briefing, but you'll see in today's briefing, is that we have more of a wintry mix involved. Yesterday was just pretty much snow or rain, but now it looks like some warming aloft will try to work its way up over our area, which could have the effect of maybe allowing for a wintry mix. What do we mean by wintry mix? Where you see wintry mix highlighted on the screen there, basically what we mean is a mixture of rain, sleet, and snow. So it could be any one of those three. Right now, we're not thinking there's going to be any freezing rain. We think it's either going to be snow, sleet, or rain. That's what we mean by wintry mix. Okay, any of the three can occur in the orange. Rain, snow, or sleet. So notice how that transition line shifts south through the afternoon. So look for conditions to deteriorate, particularly north of the Highway 64 corridor during the mid-afternoon. Where's the 64 corridor, you're wondering? And I'm going to try to draw it in here kind of. I'm not going to get this perfect, so please forgive me for those who might be more familiar with the road, who drive it every day. But that's roughly the Highway 64 corridor, where I outlined in yellow there in the lower left. So if you think about north of that yellow highlighter, that's where conditions are probably going to deteriorate outside during the afternoon on Thursday. If you go south of I like to use this road, the Highway 24 corridor, which is roughly where I drew that southern line. I think if you're along and south of Highway 24, you're going to be okay throughout most of the afternoon, mainly just rain, okay? So it's in between here, in between the 24 and 64 corridor, where it's a little bit tricky to say, is it going to be rain, snow, or sleet? It could be a mix of all three during the afternoon. Okay, so, and if it's more in the way of sleet or snow, then clearly you're going to have a greater impact in that wintry mix area during the afternoon tomorrow. By 6 p.m. tomorrow, it looks like that wintry mix is pushed all the way through central North Carolina. The snow line is pushed, south of the Raleigh, Raleigh-Wilson area, south of Albemarle, or south to Albemarle. So that's the way it's shaping up. And then during the evening, it's pretty much light snow everywhere, and but gradually it'll be winding down and shifting east. When does the snow end? It ends by 2 a.m. for just about all of central North Carolina. So 2 to 3 a.m. snow will be shutting off, obviously winding down even before then in terms of the intensity. So this looks to be like, again, to kind of summarize, the rain moves in tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning. The rain transitions to snow north of 85 by late morning, and then gradually during the afternoon, that transition from rain to snow gradually shifts south across central North Carolina. It looks like the worst of the wintry weather will sort of accumulate, if you will, between the mid-afternoon Thursday through, say, 10 p.m. Thursday. So, I'll just say between 3 and 10 p.m. Thursday is when we expect the rates, the precipitation rates, whatever the precipitation form it is, we expect the heaviest precipitation rates to be between 3 and, say, 9 or 10 p.m. On Thursday. So, and if you're wondering, well, hopefully this answers the question, why are southern tier counties of Anson, Richmond, Scotland, Hoke, Cumberland, and Sampson are not in the advisory right now. That's because those 6 counties stay rain the longest, and even the wintry mix the longest. So that'll cut down on snowfall totals. Okay. So, clearly if things change, we may have to make some tweaks to the advisory, but that's the way it's shaping up right now. Now, see, normally I don't answer questions at this point, but Brent sent in a good question I think would be worth answering at this point in time. Brent asks, what is the pink color at 6 p.m. versus the purple? And I'm glad he asked that, because basically what that's just simply implying is a little bit stronger, heavier intensity. But please don't use that as a guide to, where it's going to be snowing the hardest, okay, because that could change. All right, so pink and purple represent snow in this particular graphic. Okay, all right, so moving on to the to hopefully that addresses the timing issues. Now, the issues of how much. So this has been obviously a challenge for us. It's a winter storm in the Carolinas. They're all a challenge. Okay, so the models have been flip-flopping, and but we think we're kind of honing in on what we think is probably a pretty good forecast here. And this is what we call our range of snow accumulation possibilities. And basically the middle graphic, and I'll get my highlighter back out here. This middle graphic is our official forecast. This is what we think is the most likely to occur. That's our official forecast, which basically calls for, essentially, basically 2 to 3 inches of snow across a large portion of central North Carolina. 2 to 3 inches of snow across a large part of the area. Okay, and I want to point out, however, that we also include what we call the range of possibilities of the low end amount. And what the low end amount, what you're seeing all these zeros, and you're probably like, well, geez, what the heck? What's the point in showing zeros, right, for the low end amount? And basically what the low end shows is that there is a fair number of models that still show that nothing will happen. That's still in the range of possibilities. That's still an option on the table, although a lesser and lesser likelihood. Low end amount showing zeros because there's still models that show, maybe it'll stay as all rain, or maybe there's very little precipitation and all the precipitation stays to our south. In other words, there's models that show nothing in terms of snow accumulation. On the flip side, the high end amount, you're probably wondering, well, gosh, these are, big numbers, up to upwards of a half a foot. And basically what that indicates is we include these among the range of possibilities because there are models that show 4, 5, 6 inches of snow occurring across portions of central North Carolina. So we want to include that in the range of possibilities because there still are data pieces here that suggest that. But when we kind of take sort of the most likely scenario, sort of that average approach, the most likely scenario suggests anywhere from 2 to 3 inches, maybe some higher amounts. And let me show you on the next slide what I mean by some locally higher amounts. On this slide, somewhere in this hatched area, and again, not at the risk of using my highlighter too much, but somewhere in this hatched area, there could be some local banding of snow showers that puts down some higher amounts. Okay, so and right now we just don't have the ability at this point in time to say where exactly those very narrow local heavier bands will set up. But somewhere in this hatched area, we feel that there's a possibility that there could be a swath of several inches more than what we're showing here. Okay, so but this is on average what we think right now, 2 to 3 inches on average, with somewhere in this hatched area, maybe a little bit more. Okay, not everywhere in the hatched area, but somewhere in this hatched area. All right, so timing wise, I basically we include this slide just to kind of show how this sets up and how it ends. And basically, today, really low impact weather. Again, don't be panicked by any sleet pellets you see. It's not a big deal. Very patchy, very fleeting. And then conditions heading downhill during the morning and afternoon with the worst of the weather, afternoon and the evening tomorrow. And then Friday, probably, depending on where that heaviest snow falls, Friday could be a mess in the morning as well, with, snow-covered roads and difficult travel in some places. We will see temps finally climb above freezing by 10 a.m. The high temperatures should top out around 40, although it probably will be a little cooler than that where the heaviest snow accumulates. Snow on the ground does affect the temperatures. Generally keeps it colder during the daytime and even makes it even colder at night. So, colder temperatures where there's snowpack. And then finally this weekend, we're expecting, rapidly improving conditions with temperatures climbing into the 50s under mostly sunny skies. So, even Friday, even where temperatures stay in the 30s, the sun itself the fact that the sun will be out will help to melt a lot of this snow. So I think we're going to see a pretty rapid melt and improving conditions over the weekend. So the snow shouldn't be around terribly long. All right, so this slide kind of just summarizes everything that I just conveyed here. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but our confidence is still kind of medium, just because there's still a lot of differences, or I should actually say low in the amounts, because somebody's going to get, let me go back to the amounts. Somebody's going to get more than this, and somebody's going to get less than this. I mean, this is this is a Carolina winter storm. I mean, there's going to be errors in this. Somewhere in that hatched area, there's going to be a little bit more. And there's going to be some places that get less than what we're showing here in our official forecast. So our confidence is low on the expected snow amounts and impacts, but pretty high confidence that it will occur. And again, the next bullets there just summarize pretty much what I conveyed already with the timing, with this evolving in the morning, deteriorating conditions in the afternoon, and the worst of the weather, say between 3 and 9 p.m. Thursday. And then, with the amounts and the timing, that's basically what we have in our forecast right now. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, the heaviest snow is expected along and north of the Highway 64 corridor, mainly from the Triangle region eastward, where we expect 2 or 3 inches of snow. Localized higher amounts are possible. South of Highway 64, given the delayed changeover, accumulations of 1 inch or less are expected. That would be mainly, well to the south of 60, like as I pointed out, Anson, Richmond, Scotland, Hoke, Cumberland, and Sampson counties will have probably we'll see that inch or less. All right. So our next briefing, well, let me say that our slides will be emailed here by 6 p.m. Actually, as soon as we disconnect here, I will email these slides out. So we will update these slides this evening if needed. If anything substantial changes, we'll update the slides, email them out. By 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, we'll have a fresh set of slides emailed. And then at 11:30, it's already scheduled. We'll do a webinar just like this at 11:30 tomorrow morning. Use the same link that you used to join this one to join the 11:30, and we'll basically have a repeat, an update, if you will, on this webinar, this briefing. All right. So with that, I will again thank everybody for joining us.